"Shut that chicken shack down." That was what HOA President Marlene Bishop said, while her white SUV blocked my farm gate at 7:10 on a Saturday morning. Behind that gate were 72 dozen eggs, 20 jars of honey, 3 crates of tomatoes, and a diner order I was supposed to deliver before the breakfast rush. In front of the gate were orange cones, an HOA security guard, 2 board members, and a paper sign that said, "Temporary HOA Safety Closure." Marlene told my customers my egg stand was illegal. Then she pointed at my wife's little yellow stand and said, "Nobody pays luxury home prices to drive past this." But she had one problem. The gate was mine. The gravel pull-off was mine. The egg stand was mine. And the deed proving it was sitting in a folder behind the counter. So I did not yell. I did not touch her cones. I did not move her SUV. I waited for the sheriff. 20 minutes later, Sheriff Collins opened my deed in front of every customer, every board member, and every neighbor watching. Then he told Marlene her HOA safety closure was sitting on private farm property. But the deed only exposed the first lie. The county file later showed she was not trying to stop traffic. She was trying to erase my wife's egg stand so Cedar Ridge could build a luxury entrance sign on my land. My name is Daniel Mercer. Most people call me Dan. I am 52 years old. I run Mercer Family Farm outside Ashford, Tennessee. It is not a big farm. 26 acres, 2 old barns, 4 rows of peach trees, a vegetable patch, 3 beehives, and enough chickens to make every morning noisy. Every Saturday, I open the roadside stand at the front gate. It is a small yellow shed with a green tin roof, 2 shelves, a chalkboard, a cooler, and an old coffee can for cash. My wife Sarah painted the sign herself. Fresh eggs, honor box. She painted it during the first summer we owned the farm. Back then, we had more debt than sense. The house needed a roof. The tractor needed tires. The well pump sounded like it was coughing up nails. But Sarah looked at that little stand like it was a castle. She said, "If people stop for eggs, they'll remember we're here." She was right. People stopped. Neighbors came first, then church ladies, then restaurant owners, then parents with kids who wanted to see the chickens. For years, that stand paid for feed when money was tight. It bought school shoes for our daughter. It covered vet bills. It put gas in the truck. After Sarah passed, I thought about closing it. For a while, I could not even look at the sign. Her brush strokes were still there. The yellow paint was brighter in the corners, where her fingers had missed the weather. Every time I opened the shutters, I could hear her telling me the tomatoes looked better on the left, because red belonged next to yellow. So I kept it open. Not because it made me rich. It did not. I kept it open because it kept part of her in the world. That is what Marlene Bishop never understood. To her, it was an eyesore. To me, it was my wife's handwriting on a piece of wood. Cedar Ridge Estates was built 4 years after Sarah died. Before that, the land beside mine was a hayfield owned by the Patterson family. A developer bought it, cleared it, and sold the idea of refined country living. The brochures showed wide porches, stone mailboxes, walking paths, and sunsets over open fields. One of those sunsets was over my field. My barn was in the background. So was my egg stand. Nobody asked me. At first, I tried to be a decent neighbor. When new families moved in, I waved. When kids stopped by the fence to look at the chickens, I answered their questions. Some Cedar Ridge people were kind. Mrs. Walker came every Saturday for eggs and honey. Ben and Rachel brought their little boy to see the hens. Mr. Russo, a retired firefighter, bought tomatoes and always overpaid by $2. Most people just wanted to live their lives. But some people move next to a farm because they like the idea of farms. Then the farm starts acting like a farm. Chickens make noise. Trucks come early. Gravel dust moves. Manure smells like manure. And suddenly, the view they paid for becomes an inconvenience. The first complaints were small. A woman asked if I could stop the rooster from crowing before 7. I told her I would speak with him, but I could not promise obedience. A man asked if I could move the egg stand behind the barn because it looked too roadside. I told him roadside was the point. Then someone left a note in the honor box. It said, "Cash businesses lower neighborhood class." I kept that note. Not because it mattered, because it told me what kind of trouble was coming. Then Marlene Bishop became HOA president. Marlene had one of those voices that sounded sweet, until you listened to the words. She was polished. White SUV, perfect hair, designer sunglasses, clipboard always tucked under one arm. Within 6 months, she was running the HOA like she had been elected mayor of a private country. The first time she came to my farm, I was washing egg trays behind the stand. She parked near the gravel pull-off. stepped out of her SUV, and looked around like she had walked into a health violation. "Mr. Mercer? That's me. I'm Marlene Bishop, president of the Cedar Ridge Estates Homeowners Association." I nodded. "Morning." She did not say good morning back. She looked at the egg stand, then the chalkboard, then the cooler, then the chickens scratching behind the fence. "We need to discuss the impact this operation is having on our entrance corridor." I looked at the road, then at my gate, then back at her. "Entrance corridor?" "The approach into Cedar Ridge." "Ma'am, this is my farm gate. It is adjacent to our entrance." "That's different." She handed me a printed packet with Cedar Ridge HOA letterhead. The title said, "Notice of Community Image and Traffic Concerns." Inside were photos of my egg stand, photos of customers parked in the gravel pull-off, photos of my handwritten fresh egg sign. One photo even had a red circle around a chicken feather stuck in the grass. The complaints were listed in neat bullet points: unapproved roadside signage, unregulated customer parking, farm odor, visual incompatibility, potential traffic hazard, commercial activity, affecting property values. I closed the packet and handed it back. "I'm not in your HOA." Her smile did not change. "We understand that. Then your letter does not apply to me. Your business affects our community image. My business was here before your community. That does not mean it belongs at the entrance to luxury homes." There it was. Luxury homes. Not safety. Not traffic. Not law. Status. I wiped my hands on a towel. "Marlene, this stand is on my property. The pull-off is on my property. The gate is on my property. The county knows what I sell here." She tilted her head. I would be careful making claims without documentation. That was her first mistake. I had documentation. I had more than she imagined. My father taught me to keep land papers like you keep family photos. In my office, I had the deed from when Sarah and I bought the farm. I had the survey map. I had the county farm use record. I had sales paperwork. I had years of inspection notes showing the stand had never been cited. It was not a magic permit. It was proof the county had known about the farm stand for years and had never treated it like a violation. Sarah had insisted we do everything clean. She used to say, "If somebody ever wants to mess with us, make them trip over paperwork." I did not show Marlene any of that on the first day. I just said, "Have a nice morning." She looked at the egg stand one more time. "This is not over, Mr. Mercer." Then she got into her white SUV and drove away. She was right. It was not over. The next month became a slow campaign. First came the emails. Marlene wrote that Cedar Ridge had received multiple resident concerns about roadside sales near the entrance. Then came a complaint to the county about food safety. An inspector came out, looked at the eggs, checked my cooler, checked my labels, and told me everything was fine. Then came a complaint about traffic. A deputy drove by during Saturday morning hours, watched 3 cars pull in and out without blocking the road, and left. Then came a complaint about signage. The county clerk called me and said, "Dan, is your fresh egg sign still on your own fence?" "Yes." "Then you're fine." Marlene did not like being ignored, so she stopped trying to win through the county. She started trying to scare customers. One Saturday, I noticed a Cedar Ridge security guard standing across the road from the egg stand. He was not doing anything illegal, just standing, watching cars, writing down license plates. Customers noticed. One woman pulled in, saw him, and backed out without buying anything. Another asked me, "Are we allowed to stop here?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. This is private property." She bought eggs, but she kept glancing at the guard. The next week, orange cones appeared along the edge of the gravel pull-off. They did not fully block it. They just made it awkward enough that people hesitated. I moved them back to the edge of Cedar Ridge's side. The week after that, Marlene posted in the Cedar Ridge newsletter, "The board is addressing an unauthorized roadside sales operation near our entrance. Residents are advised to avoid unsafe stopping activity until the matter is resolved." Unauthorized, unsafe, operation. Those words did damage, not because they were true, because they sounded official. Mrs. Walker told me she almost did not stop that Saturday. "That woman said we could get ticketed for buying eggs," she said. I was restocking honey jars when she said it. I stopped with 1 jar in my hand. "She told you that?" She said the sheriff's department had been notified. I looked across the road at Cedar Ridge's stone entrance. Marlene had not just attacked my stand. She had reached into my customers' heads. She did not have to shut the stand down legally. She only had to make people afraid to stop. That made me angry in a way the letters had not. A complaint is paper. Scaring an 81-year-old woman away from buying eggs is personal. But I still did not yell. I started a file. I took pictures of the cones, I printed the newsletter. I saved the emails. I wrote down dates and times. I checked the barn camera. That camera faced the front gate, the pull-off, and the egg stand. Sarah had wanted it years ago, after someone stole 2 jars of honey and left an IOU signed, "Sorry." The camera caught more than Marlene knew. It caught her security guard placing cones. It caught him telling a customer, "This stand is under investigation." It caught Marlene standing beside the pull-off with a board member, pointing at my gate while holding a rolled-up plan. I did not know what that plan was yet, but I would. The harassment kept growing. Marlene taped a notice to the egg stand one morning before I opened. It said, "Cease roadside sales pending HOA safety review." I pulled it off carefully. I took a picture of the tape mark. Then I put the notice in the file. Another Saturday, she stood near the entrance with 2 board members and told customers they were creating a traffic hazard. A man in a pickup asked me if there was trouble. I said, "Only if you believe everything a clipboard tells you." He laughed and bought 2 dozen eggs. But not everyone laughed. By June, my Saturday sales were down almost 30%. That may not sound like much to people with salaries and benefits. On a farm like mine, 30% is feed money. It is fuel. It is the difference between fixing a pump now or hoping it survives one more week. I also had a standing order with Miller's Diner in town. Every Saturday morning, I delivered eggs before their breakfast rush. They used my eggs in biscuits, omelets, and pies. It was not a huge contract, but it was steady. And steady matters. As long as Marlene was sending letters, posting newsletters, and scaring customers, I documented it. The moment she blocked the gate, it became obstruction. And that moment was coming. Marlene found out about the diner because she watched everything. One afternoon, she came back while I was loading cartons into the truck. She stood beside the gate, sunglasses on, clipboard hugged tight. "I see you're expanding commercial operations. I'm delivering eggs to a business. That's what selling eggs means. This is exactly the sort of activity Cedar Ridge cannot allow near its entrance." I closed the truck door. "Marlene, Cedar Ridge does not allow or disallow anything on my farm." She looked at the egg stand. "You keep saying that, because it keeps being true." She stepped closer. "You know, there are better uses for this strip than that little shack." I followed her eyes. She was not looking at the stand anymore. She was looking at the gravel pull-off, the wide patch beside my gate where customers parked. The same patch Sarah and I had paid to grade 15 years earlier. "What uses?" I asked. She smiled. "Something more appropriate to the neighborhood." That was the moment I knew this was bigger than eggs. Marlene did not just want the stand shut down. She wanted that piece of ground. That night, I pulled out my deed and survey. The deed described the Mercer parcel all the way to the road frontage. That included the access strip, the farm gate, and the gravel pull-off. The survey showed the boundary line clearly. Cedar Ridge's entrance was east of my gate. My pull-off was west of it. There was no shared entrance, no common area, no HOA access right, no easement for Cedar Ridge across my gate. I made copies, one for the office, one for my truck, one for the egg stand. Then I called the county office and requested a fresh copy of my farm use record. The clerk, Rhonda, knew me. She knew Sarah too. When I told her why I needed it, she sighed. "Cedar Ridge again? Again. I'll have it ready tomorrow." I picked it up the next morning. Rhonda slid the papers across the counter and lowered her voice. "Dan, you might want to check the planning file for Cedar Ridge." "Why?" She hesitated. "Just check it." I did not have time that day. I should have made time. Because Marlene was about to stop hinting. She was about to block my gate. The Saturday it happened was the first good market morning of the summer. Clear sky, warm air, no rain. The kind of morning where people wake up wanting fresh tomatoes and brown eggs. I was up at 5. I washed the tomatoes. I packed 72 dozen eggs. I loaded honey jars. I set out sweet corn in wooden crates. I wrote the prices on the chalkboard. Eggs, $5. Honey, $8. Tomatoes, $3 a basket. Sweet corn, 6 for 4. At 6:45, Mrs. Walker arrived early, like she always did. She liked first pick. At 6:55, Ben and Rachel pulled in with their little boy. At 7:02, the diner order was ready in the truck. At 7:10, I heard engines. Marlene's white SUV rolled into the gravel pull-off and stopped sideways across my farm gate. A second SUV pulled in behind her. A third parked near the egg stand. Orange cones came out. A security guard set them across the pull-off. One board member zip-tied a sign to a metal stake. Temporary HOA safety closure. My customers stood there holding empty egg cartons. Mrs. Walker looked confused. Ben picked up his son and stepped back. Marlene got out of her SUV like she was arriving for a ribbon cutting. Cream blouse, white pants, gold watch, clipboard, phone already recording. "Mr. Mercer," she called. "This stand is closed pending safety review." I walked out from behind the counter. "No, it isn't." She pointed toward the road. "You are creating illegal traffic flow into our community entrance. This is not your entrance. It affects our entrance. My gate, my pull-off, my stand." She smiled at the people watching. "Then you won't mind showing that to the sheriff." I looked at her SUV blocking my gate. Then I looked at the diner order sitting in my truck. "You're blocking my delivery. You are operating an unauthorized commercial business. I'm selling eggs from my farm. You are damaging property values." Mrs. Walker spoke up. "I've bought eggs here for years." Marlene turned to her with fake softness. "Ma'am, this is for everyone's safety." Mrs. Walker looked at the cones. "I'm 81. The cones are the dangerous part." A few people laughed quietly. Marlene did not. She lifted her phone. "Mr. Mercer, if you attempt to move through this closure, we will consider it aggressive behavior." I felt heat rise in my chest. The egg stand was open. The customers were waiting. The diner order was cooling. My wife's sign was right behind me, with Marlene's shadow falling across it. I wanted to yell. I wanted to move every cone into the ditch. I wanted to ask her who she thought she was. But I heard Sarah's voice instead. "Make them trip over paperwork." So I said, "Call who you need to call." She did. She told dispatch I was operating an illegal roadside business. She said I had created a traffic hazard. She said customers were blocking Cedar Ridge access. She said she felt unsafe. None of that was true. My customers were standing quietly beside a tomato crate. Ben's little boy was holding a honey jar with both hands. The security guard looked embarrassed. When Marlene hung up, she announced, "Sheriff's Department is on the way." I nodded. Then I went behind the stand. I opened the drawer under the counter. I took out the folder. Marlene saw it. "What is that?" "My deed," she laughed. "A deed does not let you create a traffic hazard." "No," I said, "but it does show whose land you're standing on." That wiped the smile from her face for half a second. Then she recovered. "We'll see." Sheriff Collins arrived 12 minutes later. He was a broad man with gray hair, a calm voice, and a habit of looking at the ground before he looked at people. I respected that. People lie. Land usually does not. He stepped out of his cruiser and took in the scene. The SUV blocking the gate. The cones. The sign. The customers. The egg stand. The HOA board members standing too close together. Marlene reached him first. "Sheriff, thank you. We need this illegal stand shut down today." Sheriff Collins held up one hand. "Slow down, Mrs. Bishop." She handed him a packet. "These are our HOA materials. This roadside operation is interfering with our entrance and creating a safety risk for residents." He glanced through the packet. Then he looked at me. "Dan, you got paperwork for this stand and gate?" "Yes, sir." I handed him the folder. "My deed, my survey, and my county farm use record." Marlene crossed her arms. "That little pull-off serves our entrance corridor." Sheriff Collins opened the survey map. "Entrance corridor is not a property description." The board member beside her looked down. The sheriff studied the map for a long moment. Then he looked up at the land itself. He pointed. "Your Cedar Ridge entrance is over there," Marlene said. "Yes." He pointed to my gate. "This is Mercer's gate. That gate creates traffic impact." "That wasn't my question." He pointed to the gravel pull-off. "This pull-off is inside the Mercer parcel?" I said, "Yes, sir." He looked at the deed. Then the survey. Then the farm use record. Then he looked at Marlene's SUV. "Mrs. Bishop, who gave you permission to block this gate?" Her face tightened. "This is a temporary safety closure." "Who gave you permission?" "The HOA has a responsibility to protect its residents." "From buying eggs?" That one slipped out dry and flat. A few people tried not to laugh. Marlene's face flushed. "This is not about eggs. It is about unauthorized commerce and unsafe stopping." Sheriff Collins looked at the customers. "Are any of you blocking the Cedar Ridge entrance?" Mrs. Walker raised her hand. "I'm blocking my own knees from walking too far. But that's about it." This time, people did laugh. Marlene snapped, "This is serious." The sheriff nodded. "It is." Then he stepped toward the egg stand and unfolded the survey map against the counter. "Everyone here needs to understand something." Marlene went still. Sheriff Collins read from the deed first, then from the survey description. "The Mercer parcel includes the roadside access strip, the farm gate, and the gravel customer pull-off shown along County Road 18. He tapped the paper. "This stand sits inside that parcel. This gate sits inside that parcel. This pull-off sits inside that parcel." Then he turned to Marlene. Your vehicles and cones are on private farm property. Marlene's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But the stand affects our entrance. Your entrance is there, he said, pointing east. His gate is here. We have safety concerns. Safety concerns do not give you the right to block private property. He is running a business. The county can address permits if there is a permit issue. But based on what I'm holding, the land is his. And nobody here has the right to close his gate. Mrs. Walker looked at me and smiled. Ben's little boy whispered, "Does that mean we can still buy eggs?" Sheriff Collins heard him. He looked down and said, "I'm not stopping breakfast." That was the moment Marlene lost the crowd. Not legally, not officially, but emotionally. People had come to see whether the egg stand was illegal. Instead, they watched the sheriff read my deed, while Marlene's SUV sat on my land. He turned back to her. "Move the vehicles. Sheriff, I am the HOA president, and this is not HOA property. The board will challenge this. You can challenge whatever you want from somewhere other than Mr. Mercer's gate." The security guard moved first. He started picking up cones. Marlene snapped, "Leave those." Sheriff Collins looked at him. "Pick them up." He picked them up faster. The second SUV moved. Then the third. Marlene stood beside her Lexus, furious, with her phone still in her hand. For a second, I thought she would refuse. Then Sheriff Collins said, "Mrs. Bishop, I'm asking once more." She got in. She moved the Lexus. The gate opened. The customers started breathing again. I loaded the diner order into my truck. It was late, but still usable. Mrs. Walker bought eggs. Ben's little boy bought one honey jar with quarters from a plastic bag. Marlene stood by the Cedar Ridge entrance and watched every sale like each carton was an insult. Before the sheriff left, he said quietly, "Dan, you should document the loss from this morning." "I already am." He nodded. "Good." Then he looked at the egg stand sign. "Sarah painted that, didn't she?" I swallowed once. "Yes, sir. She had better handwriting than you." I laughed for the first time that morning. Yes, she did. I thought the deed reading would be the end of it. I was wrong. The sheriff had cleared my gate. But the county file would show why Marlene wanted the gate closed in the first place. That afternoon, Cedar Ridge's private Facebook group lit up. A board member posted a picture of the sheriff holding my survey map. The caption said, "Temporary safety review interrupted due to unresolved property documentation. HOA will continue protecting residents from roadside traffic hazards." Unresolved. That word did a lot of work. They had seen the sheriff read the deed. They had seen the cones removed. They had seen Marlene move her Lexus. Still, she called it unresolved. Then someone posted a short clip of the confrontation. But the clip started after Marlene had blocked the gate. It showed me holding the folder. It showed customers standing around. It did not show her security guard placing cones. It did not show her saying the stand would be shut down. It did not show the sheriff saying the land was mine. Mrs. Walker commented, "Please post the part where the sheriff read the deed." Her comment disappeared within an hour. That was Marlene's third mistake. First, she blocked my gate. Second, she lied about safety. Third, she edited the truth in front of people who had cameras. That night, I pulled the footage from the barn camera. It showed everything. At 6:42, the security truck arrived. At 6:47, the guard placed cones across my pull-off. At 6:51, Marlene walked along my fence line with a board member and pointed at the egg stand. At 7:08, her SUV blocked my gate. At 7:12, she told Mrs. Walker, "This stand will not be here much longer." That line made me sit back in my chair. This stand will not be here much longer. Not, "We need safety." Not, "We need traffic control." She said the quiet part. I saved the footage. Then I remembered Rhonda's warning at the county office. "You might want to check the planning file for Cedar Ridge." Monday morning, I went to the courthouse. Rhonda saw me walk in and reached under her desk like she had been waiting. "I pulled it," she said. "The planning file?" She nodded. "You are going to want copies." The file was thick. Most of it was normal. Drainage plans, lighting approvals, road connections. But halfway through, Rhonda turned to a page with a heading, Cedar Ridge Entrance Beautification Extension. There was a drawing attached, a stone monument sign, decorative shrubs, a curved brick wall, landscape lighting, and right in the middle of the proposed extension was my gravel pull-off, my gate, and the space where Sarah's egg stand sat. The drawing showed exactly what Marlene wanted to put where Sarah's egg stand stood. I stared at it. "That's my land." Rhonda nodded. "Yes." "Did they submit this as approved?" "No. It was preliminary. The county told them they would need a signed agreement from the property owner." "From me?" "Yes." I flipped to the email chain. One email was from Marlene to the developer's landscape consultant. The current farm stand creates a visual conflict with the premium entrance design. If the roadside sales use can be discontinued, the pull-off may become available for future beautification or shared access discussion. Another email said, traffic and image concerns may create leverage for a future access conversation with the owner. I read that line twice. Then a third time, traffic and image concerns. Leverage. Future access conversation. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This was not about eggs. This was not about cones. This was not even about property values. Marlene had looked at the last thing my wife built and treated it like an obstacle in a landscaping plan. Rhonda slid a copy request form toward me. You want all of it? Yes, I said. All of it. That evening, I sat in the farm office and rebuilt the file. Tab 1, Deed. Tab 2, Survey. Tab 3, Farm Use Record. Tab 4, HOA Notices. Tab 5, Barn Camera Footage. Tab 6, Customer Statements. Tab 7, Cedar Ridge Beautification Proposal. Tab 8, Lost Sales and Delivery Delay. I calculated the damage from the blocked gate. The diner delivery was late. I lost 2 crates of tomatoes that sat too long in the sun. 7 customers left without buying. My Saturday total came in $940 below a normal June Saturday. It was not a lawsuit lottery. It was feed money. It was real. I wrote it down. Then I called Sheriff Collins and asked who at the county handled property obstruction complaints tied to development plans. He gave me a name. Commissioner Hale. By Tuesday afternoon, I had filed a written complaint. I did not ask for drama. I did not ask for anyone to be arrested. I asked the county to confirm the property boundary. I asked them to order Cedar Ridge to stop placing signs and cones on my land. And I asked them to correct any false claims that my farm stand was illegal, because the sheriff had cleared the gate, but I needed the record cleared too. The review was scheduled for the next Thursday at the county administration building. Marlene tried to settle before then. She came to the farm on Wednesday evening with a man named Alan Pierce, Cedar Ridge's attorney. He wore a gray suit and had the tired look of someone who had already read the survey. Marlene did not look tired. She looked offended. We are willing to resolve this without further hostility, she said. I was stacking empty egg cartons behind the stand. What hostility? The situation you created. I looked at her. My gate was blocked by your SUV. Alan Pierce cleared his throat. Mr. Mercer, the HOA recognizes there may be a boundary misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding. There is a survey. He nodded slightly. That told me he knew. We would like to propose a neighborly solution. Marlene jumped in. We can relocate your stand behind your barn at HOA expense. I stared at her. You want to move my egg stand where customers can't see it. It would reduce traffic. It would kill the stand. It would improve the entrance. There it was again. The entrance. I said, my wife built that stand. Marlene gave the smallest sigh. I understand sentimental attachment. But one family's hobby stand cannot dictate the image of an entire community. For a moment, I could not speak. Not because I had nothing to say, because I had too much. Finally, I said, Sarah is not a sentimental attachment, and my deed is not a suggestion. Alan looked down. Marlene's jaw tightened. You are choosing conflict. No, I said. You chose my land. She stepped closer. People in Cedar Ridge are tired of looking at chickens and plywood every time they come home. I nodded toward the folder on the counter. Then Thursday, they can look at paperwork. The county review was not a courtroom. There was no judge, no jury, no dramatic oath. Just a meeting room with fluorescent lights, folding chairs, a county map on the wall, and people who did not expect an egg stand to fill every seat. But it did. Cedar Ridge residents came. My customers came. Mrs. Walker sat in the front row with her cane across her lap like a sword. Ben and Rachel came with their little boy. Mr. Russo came in his firefighter jacket. Even though it was June, Marlene sat with Alan Pierce and 3 board members. She looked confident until she saw the projector. Then she saw my folder. Then she saw Sheriff Collins standing near the back wall. Commissioner Hale opened the meeting. We are here to review a complaint regarding obstruction of private farm access, placement of unauthorized traffic control devices, and disputed claims about roadside sales near Cedar Ridge Estates. Marlene spoke first. She was good. I will give her that. She said Cedar Ridge respected local agriculture. She said the HOA had never intended to interfere with lawful property use. She said the board had acted after multiple safety concerns from residents. She said the egg stand created traffic confusion at the subdivision entrance. She said her goal had always been cooperation. Then Commissioner Hale asked one question. Mrs. Bishop, Did you or anyone acting for the HOA place cones or signage on the Mercer parcel? Marlene hesitated. Alan leaned toward the microphone. The association believed the area to be functionally connected to the entrance corridor. Commissioner Hale said, "That is not a property category." A few people murmured. Then I was asked to present my documents. I walked to the front with the folder. I started with the deed, then the survey, then the farm use record. I kept my voice even. This is the Mercer parcel. This is the farm gate. This is the gravel pull-off. This is the egg stand. All of it is on my property. The county surveyor had reviewed the file. He confirmed it. No part of the Cedar Ridge common area includes the Mercer gate, pull-off, or farm stand. Commissioner Hale turned to Marlene. "Did the HOA have permission to place cones there?" Marlene said. "We believed there was an immediate safety concern." "That is not a yes." "No." The room shifted. Then Sheriff Collins spoke. He described arriving Saturday morning. He described the SUV blocking my gate. He described reading my deed and survey. He described ordering the vehicles and cones moved. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Facts sound different when nobody can edit them. Then I played the barn camera footage. At 6:42, the security truck arrived. At 6:47, cones were placed. At 7:08, Marlene's SUV blocked the gate. Then the audio picked up her voice. "This stand will not be here much longer." The room went quiet. Marlene shifted in her chair. Then I played the next clip. Her security guard told a customer, "This stand is under investigation. You may want to avoid buying here." Mrs. Walker turned slowly and looked at Marlene. That look could have peeled paint. Commissioner Hale asked, "Mrs. Bishop, was the egg stand under official county investigation at that time?" Marlene said, "There were safety concerns." "That was not my question." Alan Pierce closed his eyes for half a second. "No," he said. "There was no formal county investigation." Then came the beautification proposal. I put the drawing on the projector. The stone sign, the shrubs, the lighting, the brick wall, the curve drawn right through my gravel pull-off. People leaned forward. Mrs. Walker whispered, "Oh my." Commissioner Hale read the proposal title, Cedar Ridge Entrance Beautification Extension. He looked at Marlene. "Was this proposed extension intended to use part of the Mercer property?" Marlene said, "It was conceptual." The county surveyor said, "The drawing overlays private Mercer land." Then Commissioner Hale read the email. "The current farm stand creates a visual conflict with the premium entrance design." The room changed. Before that sentence, some people still thought this was about traffic. After that sentence, they understood. Then he read the next line. "Traffic and image concerns may create leverage for a future access conversation with the owner." Nobody laughed. Nobody whispered. Even Marlene stopped moving. Mrs. Walker stood up without being called. "Commissioner, I was told by Mrs. Bishop that I could be ticketed for buying eggs from Mr. Mercer." Marlene turned. "That is not accurate." Mrs. Walker faced her. "I am old, not confused." The room went still. Then Mr. Russo stood. "I was told the stand was illegal." Ben stood next. "We were told the pull-off belonged to Cedar Ridge." Another resident stood. "Our sales agent told us that area would become a landscaped entrance feature." That was when Marlene lost more than the argument. She lost the story. She had spent months telling people I was the problem. Now they realized she had used them as pressure. Commissioner Hale asked if I wanted to add anything. I walked back to the microphone. I had planned a longer speech. But when I looked at the projection of that beautification plan, all I could think about was Sarah standing on a stepladder, painting yellow trim on the egg stand, while our daughter handed her screws from a coffee can. So I said the truth. My wife built that stand when we were broke, and trying to keep this farm alive. It sells eggs. It sells tomatoes. It gives people a place to stop and talk. It is not a hazard. It is not an obstacle. It is not a visual conflict. It is part of my farm. I looked at Marlene. "You did not have to like it. You just had to stay off my land." Then I sat down. The decision came after 35 minutes. Cedar Ridge HOA was ordered to stop placing cones, signs, or security personnel on the Mercer parcel. They had to send a correction letter to all residents stating that the Mercer egg stand was not on HOA property. They had to acknowledge that the farm gate and gravel pull-off were private property. They had to reimburse my documented Saturday losses. The amount was $940. Not a fortune, but enough to prove the blockade had a cost. The county required Cedar Ridge to submit any future entrance changes with a certified boundary survey. The beautification extension was rejected, unless I signed a written agreement. I did not sign one. The county also warned the HOA that any further obstruction of my gate could be referred for civil enforcement. Marlene did not get arrested. She did not get dragged out. Real life is usually quieter than that. But when the meeting ended, nobody rushed to her side. Nobody asked her what to do next. Nobody treated her like the protector of Cedar Ridge. They walked past her toward me. Mrs. Walker hugged me. Mr. Russo shook my hand. Ben's little boy asked if the chickens were still allowed. I said, "The chickens are considering legal action." He laughed so hard he dropped his toy truck. Marlene walked out alone. 2 weeks later, Cedar Ridge held an emergency board meeting. I did not go. I had eggs to wash. Mrs. Walker told me what happened. They removed her as president, she said. Removed? Unanimous vote. That bad? She snorted. Worse. People started asking about the landscaping budget. Turns out she had already paid a design deposit for that entrance extension. Using HOA money? Of course. I looked out at the egg stand. The yellow paint was glowing in the late afternoon sun. What happens now? Audit, she said. And a new board. Then she paused. Dan? Yeah. I'm sorry. You didn't block my gate. No. But I believed her longer than I should have. I did not know what to say to that. So I said, "You still need eggs Saturday?" She laughed. 2 dozen. By July, the signs changed. Cedar Ridge removed every cone. The security guards stopped appearing near my stand. The HOA sent the correction letter. It was stiff, formal, clearly written by an attorney, but it said what it needed to say. The Mercer farm gate, gravel pull-off, and roadside stand are private property and are not part of Cedar Ridge Estate's common area. I pinned a copy inside the farm office, next to Sarah's old seed calendar. Then I made one change to the egg stand. I did not move it. I did not repaint it beige. I did not hide it behind the barn. I added a small sign below Sarah's. Fresh eggs, farm open. Under that, in smaller letters, I painted, private farm gate, do not block. My daughter came home that weekend to help. She stood back and looked at the sign. Mom would have made the letters straighter, she said. I know. She would have liked the message. I know that too. Saturday morning, I opened the shutters at 6:30. The first car pulled in at 6:42. Mrs. Walker, then Mr. Russo, then Ben and Rachel, then 3 Cedar Ridge residents I had never met. One woman stepped out holding an empty carton. I owe you an apology, she said. I nodded. You want brown eggs or mixed? She smiled. Mixed. That became the rhythm. People came. Some apologized. Some did not. Some bought tomatoes and avoided eye contact. That was fine. Not every apology needs a speech. Sometimes it looks like paying full price and putting the money in the can. A little boy from Cedar Ridge pointed at the cooler and asked, "Are these the eggs that almost got banned?" I leaned down and said, "No. These are the eggs that outlasted the HOA." His father laughed. His mother bought 2 dozen. By August, the farm stand was busier than before. Not because of revenge, because people finally understood what it was. Not a traffic hazard, not a chicken shack, not a visual conflict. A farm stand. A small, honest place where neighbors could buy food from the person who raised it. The new HOA president came by in September. Her name was Rachel Kim. She brought a letter and looked nervous. I wanted to introduce myself, she said. I know who you are. I figured. She handed me the letter. It's a written boundary acknowledgement. The board voted to keep a copy in our records. I opened it. It stated that Cedar Ridge had no authority over the Mercer farm gate, pull-off, or egg stand. It also said future board members would be required to review the boundary survey before making entrance changes. I folded it carefully. Thank you. She looked at Sarah's yellow sign. I'm sorry about what happened. I nodded. Me too. Does this mean we can still buy eggs? That depends. She looked worried. On what? Whether you bring back the cartons. She laughed. That was the first HOA conversation I had enjoyed in 2 years. Marlene moved out before Thanksgiving. I saw the moving truck on a cold morning. She stood in her driveway, watching men carry boxes out of the house. I was restocking the stand. For a moment, I thought she might come over. She did not. She just stared at the yellow sign, then at the gate, then at the pull-off she never got to turn into a stone monument. I did not wave. I did not gloat. I just opened the cooler and set out fresh eggs. That was enough. A week after she left, I found one of Sarah's old notebooks in the pantry. It was full of jam recipes, feed costs, and lists, written in her quick, slanted handwriting. Near the back, she had drawn the egg stand before we built it. Yellow walls, green roof, a little shelf for honey. A note at the bottom said, "Make it cheerful enough that people know they're welcome." I sat at the kitchen table for a long time with that page in my hands. Marlene had looked at that stand and seen plywood. She had seen chickens. She had seen traffic. She had seen something that did not match her entrance design. But Sarah had seen welcome. She had seen a way to keep the farm alive. She had seen neighbors before the neighborhood even existed. That is what people like Marlene miss. They think land is decoration. They think a gate is an obstacle. They think a farm stand is clutter. They think if something does not match their brochure, it should be erased. But land remembers work. A gate remembers who opened it in the dark. A stand remembers the hands that built it. And a deed remembers what belongs to whom, even when a clipboard forgets. These days, I still open the egg stand every Saturday. The rooster still starts too early. The gravel still pops under tires. The honey still sells out before noon. Mrs. Walker still checks every carton like she is inspecting diamonds. Kids still ask if brown eggs come from brown chickens. And every now and then, a new Cedar Ridge resident pulls in slowly, looks at the sign, and asks, "Is this okay? Are we allowed to stop here?" I always tell them the same thing. Yes, you're welcome here. Because I never wanted a war with Cedar Ridge. I wanted to sell eggs. I wanted to keep my gate open. I wanted my wife's stand to stay where she built it. Marlene thought she blocked a chicken shack. She was wrong. She blocked a family's income. She blocked a memory. She blocked private property. And when the sheriff opened my deed in front of everyone, he did more than clear a gate. He reminded them that community standards do not outrank property lines. You can dress control up as safety. You can call a farm stand ugly. You can scare customers with newsletters and cones. You can use words like premium entrance, traffic hazard, and visual conflict. But if the deed says the land is mine, then the gate is mine. The gravel is mine. The stand is mine. And the eggs are still for sale. So let me ask you this. If you bought a house next to a working farm, do you have the right to complain about eggs, roosters, dust, and farm trucks? Or did you choose that life when you moved there?